started a new unit on geometry. So, does anyone know what geometry is based off of what I have up on the board? Yes, Paula.
Is it about shapes, Miss Owens?
It is about shapes. Very good, Paula. So, shapes, we have triangles, squares, and parallelograms up on the board, but geometry involves all kinds of different shapes. But specifically, we're going to be talking about those today. So, geometry has to do with perimeter and area, and we are going to be focusing on area. So, can we read the student objective today? Let's repeat after me. So, today we should be able to find the area of triangles.
Find the area of triangles.
By composing into rectangles.
By composing into rectangles.
And decomposing into right triangles.
And decomposing into right triangles.
Very good. We're going to read the second bullet point now. Find the area of special quadrilaterals.
Find the area of special quadrilaterals.
And polygons. By decomposing. Into triangles and rectangles. Very good, class. So we are going to be going over area today. So if everyone will look in their packets and find the baggie. When you find your baggie, hold it up for me, please. Okay, very good. Place that straight in front of you. We are not going to be opening that just yet. I am going to set a timer on the board. And when I say go, you're going to have 5 minutes to take all of the shapes in your bag and create a singular square. So, in your bag, there's going to be all kinds of different shapes. There's going to be triangles, parallelograms, and squares. And your goal is to create one concise rectangle. And if you get done early, raise your hand and I will check and see how you've done. If you get done early, please do not help your neighbor because we want them to try and figure it out on your own. And you can talk slightly, but keep it at a level 1 inside voice. Okay, let's get this timer up on the board. If you give me just 1 moment. And we will get started in just 1 moment. So again, we are going to have 5 minutes on the board to complete this activity. Are you ready?
Yes, Miss
Yes.
Owens.
All right, let's go. Start.
Excuse me, Miss Owens?
Yes,
How many
Paula.
rectangles are we supposed to make?
There's going to be 1 rectangle. So
One
it needs to be 1 singular triangle or square.
Thank you.
You're welcome. minutes left. Seconds left, class. Okay, class, that is time. If you'll please stop working at this time. So, did anybody finish?
No, ma'am.
I got close.
So, did y'all find that kind of difficult? On a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult would you say it was, Paula?
A 7.
A 7? What about you, Micah?
Definitely an 8.
An 8? Okay, well, what if I tell you this is what the square was supposed to look like?
Oh, okay.
Does that help you at all?
Yeah.
I think so, Miss Owens.
Okay, well, y'all did a wonderful job. But at this time, if you'll please put your shapes back in your baggies for me, and we are going to move on. You did a wonderful job. So, put those baggies aside for me. And we are going to take our next sheet of paper. It is your stapled sheet of paper and a pencil. And we're going to move on to our area worksheet. So, can anybody tell me what the point of that activity might have been? Micah?
To understand what fits inside a shape.
Yes, very good. So, the point of the activity was to show you that different shapes can make up different squares, triangles, or any shape really. And so it was really to show you that we can break down shapes to determine area or perimeter. Now this activity was a little bit more difficult, and when we're using it in word problems, it won't be that difficult, but it was just to get a general idea. So, if by this time you look at your first worksheet, you'll see lots of different rectangles on the top. So we are going to go over the area of a rectangle. Now, does anyone know the formula for the area of a rectangle? Yes, Paula.
Is it length times width?
Close. So we use a different words for that. So we're going to use base and height. Length and width are more going to be when you're talking about volume, which we'll get to in later lessons. So, on the top of your page, will you please write area equals base times height. And the abbreviations for base is going to be a lowercase b, and height is going to be a lowercase h. So please write that at the top of your paper. Okay, so if everyone can look at question number 1, you'll see that we have our first square, and I have it written up on the board up here. So we're going to work through this problem together. So can anyone tell me what the base of this square is? Micah?
Is it 7?
It is 7. Very good. And Paula, can you please tell me what the height is?
Is it 5?
It is 5. Great job. So we're going to use our formula for the area of a triangle. And we're going to do base 7 times height, which is 5. So class, what is 7 times 5 equal to?
Is it 30?
35. So the area of this first square is going to be 35 inches squared. So if you write that in the bottom on your paper where it says area equals, because this will be your homework sheet for tonight. So, does anybody have any questions on that so far? Okay, if not, we're going to be moving on to question number 2 on your worksheet. We have this next rectangle. Paula, can you tell me what the base is?
Is it 3?
Yes, very good. It is 3. And Micah, can you tell me what the height is?
Is it 6?
It is 6. So class, what is the formula for the area of a rectangle?
Is it 3 times 6?
Yes, it is going to be 3 times 6. And Micah, can you tell me what 3 times 6 is?
Is it 18?
It is 18, good job. So the area of this rectangle, your second rectangle, is going to equal 18 feet squared. Does anyone have any questions about the area of a rectangle? Yes, Micah.
Why is the feet squared at the end?
The feet squared is at the end because when you're multiplying two different, it's going to be squared because it represents the area. And we have to make sure that we are measuring in units. So at each different shape, you're going to have a different unit, and that is important because we could be measuring in cookies or lollipops, but if we have feet, we know what the unit of measurement is. Is that all for questions? Did that answer your question, Micah?
Yes, it did.
Okay, great questions. So we're going to move on to the area of triangles. So, if we're looking at a triangle, can anyone tell me, it is going to be your second sheet. So if you will turn your sheet to one page, you will find area of triangles. And we are going to be going over the first 3 problems. So does anyone know what the area of a triangle is? Okay, well, let's see if we can find it. If we take a square, let's think back to our shape activity earlier. If we take a square and put it straight down the middle, we end up with 2 triangles. So does that help with trying to figure out what the area of a triangle is?
Yes, Miss Owens.
Can anyone tell me what it is? Does anybody want to give it a shot? Yes, Paula.
Would it be base times height and it's all divided by 2?
Yes, very good. So since 2 triangles make up 1 square, the formula is going to equal 1/2 base times height. And you can think of that base times height over 2, but the formula that we use is 1/2 base times height. So please make sure you're writing that at the top of your paper. And we are going to move on to question number 1. So, does anybody know what that square in our triangle means? Okay, well the square in the triangle represents that it is a right triangle because that square represents 90 degrees. That is very important in finding the height of our triangle because we need that 90-degree angle for the height. So, in question 2 and 3, we can see that there are dotted lines on the triangles that show us the height. And if we look at our parallelograms on the board, there's also dotted lines that show us that height. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so let's go on to our first triangle. So, the base is what, Micah?
Is it 8?
It is. And Paula, what is our height?
Is it also 8?
It is. Very good job. So, our formula, remember, for our triangle is 1/2 base times height. So, we have to take 1/2 of 8 times 8. So, first let's do 8 times 8. What is 8 times 8, Micah?
64.
Yes, very good. So, then we have to take 1/2 of 64. And Paula, do you know what 1/2 of 64 is?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay, so 1/2 on their paper. Very good. So we're going to move on to our triangle number 2. Now, does anybody notice that that looks a little bit different than our first triangle? Good. So that's because it is not a right triangle. This is what we call an isosceles triangle because all sides are the same. So there's a dotted line drawn down the middle to show us the height. So our height is going to equal 5 because the dotted line. And then what is our base? Michael, what is our base?
6.
Very good. So we're going to take 6 times 5, which is going to equal 30. And then we're going to have to take half of that. So half of 30 is going to be, does anybody want to give that a shot? Yes, Paula.
It's 15.
Very good. So the area of our triangle is going to equal 15 feet squared. And remember to add that measurement because we don't know what's being measured, but if we add that in, we recognize that it's feet and not lollipops. So we are going to be moving on to our last triangle. And because there's this weird dotted line, we have to make sure that we notice that that does not add on to this other triangle. The dotted line is creating a right triangle to show us the height, but that has nothing to do with the solid line triangle. It's just showing us the height. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so question number 3. Our height is going to be 8 because of the dotted line creates the right triangle. And our base is going to be what, Micah?
10.
10. Very good. So if we do base times height, we're going to get 80, and we have to take half of that. So the area of this triangle is what, Paula?
Is it 40?
Yes, very good. It is 40 inches squared. So we have gone over triangles and squares, the area of how to find that. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, good job. So make sure that, again, we have our formulas of the day written on this paper. We have area of a rectangle is what?
Base times
Height.
height.
Very good. And the area of a triangle is what?
Half base times height.
Very good, class. So we're moving on to our last and final shape. So if you flip your papers one more time, you'll see that the next worksheet is parallelograms. Now, rectangle is a parallelogram, but not all parallelograms are going to be rectangles. So, yes, Paula?
Why are not all of the parallelograms rectangles?
Because parallelograms are slanted slightly, which means that they're slightly different than rectangles. If that makes sense. Does that help answer your question?
But how are rectangles parallelograms then?
Rectangles are parallelograms because a parallelogram is a shape whose sides never touch. So you see that these sides are parallel to each other. So if you were to draw that line continuously, they would never touch either one of those. And so the same happens with parallelograms. If you look at the slanted sides, they're never going to touch, and the long sides are never going to touch. But if we look at a triangle, the sides come together at points. So therefore, they're not parallelograms. Does that help answer your question, Paula?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Owens.
Okay. Yes, Micah?
Would that mean squares are rectangles?
Yes. Squares are rectangles, but rectangles are not all squares. Because a square has equal sides, and a rectangle does not have equal sides, but they are similar shapes. Does that make sense, Micah? Okay, so knowing that information, do we have any idea how to find the formula for the area of a parallelogram? Yes, Paula?
Would you find like the area of a triangle and the area of the square and then put them together?
Close. So you do have the right idea, but we're going to use that more for when we're looking at trapezoids. So a parallelogram is a little bit different. There are, if you draw dotted lines right here, we can see that there are 2 triangles in the shape in one square. So that means that since there are 2 triangles, we don't have to divide by 2 2, because 1/2 times 2 is what, Paula?
May you repeat that question again?
1/2 times 2 is what?
1?
Yes, 1/2 times 2 is 1. So since there are 2 triangles, we don't have to divide that one by 1/2. So our area for a parallelogram is going to be the exact same as our area for a rectangle. It is going to be base times height. So if you'll write that at the top of your paper. And I will add that to our formulas of the day. So, knowing that information, Paula, can you work out how to do question number 1? So we have our base of what, Micah?
6.
And our height of what?
4.
Very good. So, Paula, can you write that out for us?
On the board? Or on my
On your piece of paper, and when you get an answer, you can call it out.
Is it 24?
Yes, very good. So the area of that is going to be 24 feet squared. So, we are going to move on to question number 3. So we're skipping one question on your piece of paper and moving on to question number 3. So, once again, the dotted line does not add on to the shape, it just shows us the height by creating that right triangle. So, Micah, can you solve this for me? And Paula, can you tell me what the base is?
Is it 7?
Yes, and what is the height?
3?
Very good.